In this lesson, we will rig the fingers. We'll essentially use the same steps that we used in Volume 2 to rig the creature's fingers. Let's get started by grabbing one of our arm controls. Let's say we start on the left side. So we'll grab that control, we'll press Control V. Once it's been cloned, we'll now go to wireframe mode, and we'll align this object to the root of the pinky. Alright, let's start to bring down its size. We'll go to our editable spline, get to our vertex of object level, and let's start to just drop the size. Let's press F3 just to make sure that this control wraps around the finger nicely. That looks good. Now you can see it has a bit of thickness, and resetting the X form wouldn't do much for us here, so we might as well just go ahead and use the thickness parameter. We'll start to drop that maybe to about 0.1. Alright, great. Let's go back to wireframe mode. We'll go ahead and clone this object, and then we'll align it to the next root. Okay, we'll do that again, this time for the thumb. Alright, great stuff. Just want to make sure that this gets cloned. It's very important. We need controls for all fingers. Alright. Now, heading over to our layer manager, let's go ahead and hide our model. We'll take all of these controls and we'll have them linked to the wrist. Remember, we do that so that the controls will never separate when the arm control moves past its limit. So if we were to go ahead and take all of these objects linked to our wrist and grab our arm control and start to move that around, you'll notice that the fingers don't separate. Cool. Once they've been linked, this would be a good time to go ahead and freeze their transforms. Okay, let's also get them renamed. We'll basically grab the name of the root of the bone we've aligned them to. We'll go ahead and copy that name, rename our control, and instead of BN, we'll use enum. So what I'll do is go ahead and pause the video and take care of the other two controls. So now that they all have been renamed, it's basically time to apply a few orientation constraints. So we go in and grab the root bone, grab our orientation constraint, and connect to our control. Alright, let's test this out. Great, let's go ahead and move to the next. Again, grab the root bone and orientation constraint to the control. That looks good. Let's do this once again. Okay, great. So once we've managed to finish this step, we really just have a few more steps, and that's to basically set up a custom parameter to control the bend axis of each finger, which we know to be the Z-axis. So let's go ahead and work with the pinky finger. What I'll do is go ahead and grab the control object here, and let's take a look at our modify panel. Right now you'll see that right now that custom parameter we have tied to that object has a name of elbow. But this saves us some time. With the control selected, we can press Alt-1 to grab our parameter editor and choose Edit Delete. And all we need to do is go ahead and rename this parameter here. So with it highlighted, you'll see its properties load into the parameter editor. Let's have this renamed to End. Alright, so from here we can now go ahead and choose Accept Parameter Changes, and then Apply Changes, and you can see now the name has updated. Alright, so what do we do at this point? Well, we can go ahead and wire our parameters. So let's go ahead and right-click and choose Wire Parameters. It's going to be Modified Object, Extra Controls, there's End. Let's tie that to the Z-axis of this end bone. So that's Transform, Rotation, and grab the Rotate Z and connect. I won't use degrees to radians just yet because I'd like to show you something. You can see how this bone object was never frozen. Alright, so you can see the problem that we have here. We have now moved out of our skin pose. It's shifted to match this value. So that's why we want to always get into the habit of freezing our transforms. Now if we were to undo back, grab all of those end bones, go ahead and freeze them down. Let's do the same thing on the opposite side just to be safe. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Alright, let's go ahead and right click, freeze our transforms. Now, let's now rewire back into the Z-axis of that bone and see what happens. we'll notice that the bone will not shift. Please don't move. Alright, so that's going to be transform, rotation, 0 Euler. Take a look. There's the z-axis. We'll go ahead and connect in. And let's go ahead and type in deg to rad. Okay, we'll now go ahead and choose connect. Let's go to minimize, and you'll see the bone has not shifted. Great. When we start to use the end parameter, you can see it's working just fine. Alright, so we've managed to rig the pinky, and the other fingers will use the exact same steps. Remember to go in and rename your custom parameters. Then you can go ahead and simply wire into that parameter. For the right side, you might consider cloning one of these objects since they've already been resized. So you can just go ahead and use Control V, go ahead and copy that, and then we can go ahead and Alt A align to the root bone, as we've done already. We can make sure it's going to be linked to the wrist, freeze its transforms. Again, we're using the same steps here. When we rename it, we basically grab the name of the root bone, grab the control, go ahead and paste, and change the prefix. Alright, so let's make sure we go through those steps. Let's make sure we recolor these as well. We don't want to overlook that, just to keep everything nice and consistent. Alright, so again, that's going to be it for this lesson. Well, we only have the legs left to rig. And once we're finished, we can then do a bit of cleanup work. I'm also going to show you how to lock transformations on controls, just so it's even more clear that, hey, this control is only intended to do this and not this. Alright, so these are some things we'll learn in our cleanup process, but before we get to that, let's go ahead and move to our legs and get those rigged.